But let's just get straight into it. So how does the market move? Okay, how does structure work? Well, this is how we determine structure. Okay, we have higher highs and higher lows. Now, every time we candle close above a high in an uptrend, that is a break of structure. Now we look at the lowest point between this high and where we broke it. The lowest point between here and here is this point here. So as we start to retrace, if we're expecting higher highs and higher lows, then price should not do what? Price should not come below this low here. You can see we retrace, we respect this low, and then we push higher. What happens once we candle close above this high? That's another break of structure. And then what can we do? We can look for price to return where above this low, and then do what? And then continue to the upside. And it's the exact same thing with a downtrend. We have a low, we have a high, we have a low, we have a high, we have a lower low. Now, every time we put in these lower lows, okay, that is a break of structure. Now, what is the highest point between this low and where we broke it? It's this high here. This is the strong high, okay? This is a high that delivered us a new low. So as long as we stay below this high here, we're in a downtrend. And can you see we retrace? Okay, we respect this high. And then we do what? We close below this low, put in a new break of structure. Now, what is the high responsible for breaking this low here? It's the highest point between this low and where we broke it. The highest point between here and where we broke it is simply this point here. So what does this become? This becomes our protected high. And then we can move price to here, expecting price to respect this. Now, if we come above and we candle close above here, what does this make? This now becomes a change of character. Okay, if we candle close above this protected high, this is a change of character. What does that mean? That means we've gone from an uptrend into a downtrend. And why is that? Because we should be making lower highs and lower lows. But now we've made a lower low. And what have we done? We've made a higher high. That shouldn't happen if we ask to remain in a downtrend. So now we know this is an uptrend. Okay, and we can start looking for buys again. So that's the real simple basics. And that should make sense to anyone, to everyone. And if it doesn't, just let me know. And now we'll go into where do we look for entries now that we've discovered this structure. So every time we break structure, here we have a high, we broke structure here, okay, we create a zone. The zone's always between where we had the high in an uptrend and where we broke it. So this here is our bullish zone. Okay, this is where we're looking for price to tap into. Okay, we need price to come mitigate this in order to move higher. So we're still putting in these higher highs, okay, and these higher lows. And again, we break structure here. So where's the lowest point between this high and where we broke it? It's this area here. So what zone does that give us? Now we have a new zone between here and here. Why? Because we're not expecting price to go below this low, right? This is the low that delivered us the high. So this is the protected low. So we're still looking for buys anywhere above this low here. So once price does what? Tap into this zone. Okay, we need it to mitigate it. Look for our entry here and then ride the wave up. And we're just going to repeat and now have this new zone here. So it's still simple stuff. And that should all make sense. And again, I'll do a quick overview of the downtrend, right? When we break structure, this is our break of structure. So we've had low, high, lower low. What are we expecting? We're expecting a lower high. Where though? Where are we looking for sells? It's within this last zone now. between this low and this high before we broke structure. Why? Because price should not come above this high. This is the high that put in the new low. This is our protected high. Price should not break above it, and it didn't. It respected this, and then we move lower, giving us what? A new break of structure to the downside. And now what do we have? We have a new zone here. Okay, this is our protected high. Low, high, low, high, lower, low. We're expecting price to do what? Not break above this high here, and then continue moving low to the downtrend. And now we have a new zone here. Okay, again, this is really simple stuff, but this is the basis before I get through the more advanced stuff. Now, what happens in this situation here? Okay, if we mark our highs and lows, that's always the first thing we want to do. We have high, low, high, low, higher, high. But hold up, didn't I say we need an entry within our previous zone? So here we have a zone and we never retraced into it. So what does that mean? Now we have a new zone here. So now we have two zones. We have this zone and we have this zone. So what happens when we have an unmitigated zone? And the reason I call this a unmitigated zone is because can we see price never retraced into it? Okay, I want at least 50% of the zone retraced into. We never did that. So now when price comes and takes out this low, okay, yes, this is a change of character because this is the low that gave us the new high. But what do we notice? We notice we have this unmitigated zone below. So what could price be doing? Price could very simply just be tapping into here before doing what? Before continuing with the uptrend. Now, this fake change of character is just a liquidity sweep. So those who are looking for buys in this zone now, okay, they've been stopped out. There's people, they're going to have their entries here. All right, stop loss below this protected low. And what's price going to do? Price is going to come stop them out. And why have they been stopped out here? What have they done wrong? They haven't realized we have this unmitigated zone below. And then what are they going to think? They're going to think this is a downtrend now. And now they're going to look for sells. Okay, they're going to say that this is their protected high. And then what's going to happen? Same thing again, right? They're going to get stopped out. Why? Because they're not realizing all we were doing was tapping into this previous unmitigated zone and actually continuing with the trend. And this is what we've gone through so far is absolutely any time frame, any chart, okay? If you're doing on the 1 minute, if you're doing on the 5 minute, if you're doing on the daily, it's the exact same thing. When we have these unmitigated zones, that is when we get these fake change of characters, okay? These fake flips, we touch into here, and then we continue higher. Okay, so does that make sense? Is there any questions before I move on to the next part? Well, I guess all is okay, sweet. So now, how do we know which zone price? Perfect. Thank you, bro. So how do we know which zone price will bounce off? If we have this, okay, let's say this is our higher time frame structure. We know we're looking for buys. We know we're looking for a bounce in this zone. We know we're looking for a bounce in this zone. But what is our confirmation that price is indeed going to bounce from this zone? If it might not bounce at all, we might just start dumping and get a change of character. Well, that's where we look at multi-time frame analysis. Okay, so I'll draw out this lower time frame. Okay, this black is my higher time frame. This orange, okay, I'll make it a different color because it's a bit ugly. This red, let's say, is my lower time frame. Now, can you see all we've done on a higher time frame is put in a high, low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. However, in this lower time frame, we've got lows of change of characters. We got a change of character to the downside, and then what? A change of character to the upside. We put in high, low, high, low, high, low. We shift to the downside. Then what? We shift back to the upside. Then we shift back to the upside, shift back to the downside. So when both time frames aren't aligned, so we have this zone here, for example. When this lower time frame switches bearish, okay, yeah, it will be on YouTube, bro. Don't worry. So you can rewatch it as many times as you want, 100%. When this lower time frame switches bearish, what does that tell us about this higher time frame? It tells us this higher time frame is in a pullback. So where do we want to look for enter? How do we know price is going to bounce from this zone here? We want to enter at this point here. And why do we want to enter at this point? Because this is the area where the lower time frame now switched bullish. So now both time frames are aligned. We know this zone is going to hold and price is going to continue higher. And what do we have now? We have this bullish zone here. Okay, now when are we just going to blindly long in here? No, let's say this previous zone was unmitigated as well. We know price could come down to mitigate this and give us this fake flip that we were just talking about. So how do we know to take buys in here? Is when this happens. When we get that shift back up to the upside on the lower time frame, this is where we want to enter. This is our confirmation that this zone is holding, and we are what? We are continuing with this higher time frame trend. Okay, so that should make sense. So if this is our higher time frame again, this black line is our higher time frame. What are we doing? All we've done is put in a high, low, higher, high. We're expecting what? A higher low above this low, and then for price to do what? Price to put in a higher high. How will this look on the lower time frame though? This is going to look like a big, big downtrend. So if you're taking sells in this lower time frame, not knowing what? Not knowing we're tapping into this higher time frame zone, you're going to get cooked because more likely than not, price is going to align with the higher time frame trend again and go here. So you're looking for sells here, thinking that this is a downtrend, not knowing we're just tapping into a higher time frame zone now and likely to do what? Likely to continue with structure. And then guess what? On the lower time frame, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to have a zone. We're going to retrace into that zone. We're going to bounce up. We're going to have another zone. We're going to retrace into that zone. We're going to bounce up. We're going to have another zone. We're going to retrace into that zone and do what? We're going to bounce up. We're going to have loads of these mini zones within this big expansion back up. But if you were selling here thinking this is a downtrend, this is where you're going to get smoked because you don't know we're in a higher time frame uptrend and we're tapping into this higher time frame zone that we talked about. So again, I hope that makes sense, and we'll get into chart examples now. Okay, now these are both on Friday, and this one, in terms of examples, you're not going to get much better. Okay, what can we see on the 5-minute time frame? You can see high, low, higher, high. So we're still in an uptrend, what, until this breaks here. So what are we doing now? We're tapping in to this previous zone. So all we've done, as you can see, is put in a high, low, high. We're expecting what? Higher low into a higher high. However, this pullback here on this higher time frame, how do you think it's going to look on the lower time frame? It's going to look like this, right? We're going to be looking like a big downtrend. However, if you're still selling now that we've tapped into this higher time frame, you're likely to get smoked because this higher time frame is likely to do what? Continue with the trend, put in a higher low and then a higher high. However, based on what we just said, what is the confirmation that price is going to bounce from this higher time frame zone? We need the lower time frame to do what? We need the lower time frame to boom, switch bullish. Okay, so let's see what we do here. As we come into this higher time frame zone, okay, what is the lower time frame doing? We need to get that lower time frame confirmation. So let's see if it switches bullish. If it doesn't switch bullish, then guess what? We can't take the trade. Okay, and what do? this candle here. Right? Can you see on the lower time frame we put in a low, lower high, lower low. And then we get what? We get a change of character once we candle close above. So literally all we've done in an uptrend, right, is what we're talking about. We've just done that. Okay, now on the lower time frame, we've done what? We've switched bullish. So what was that telling us about this higher time frame? That price is likely to expand back up on this higher time frame, that we should be getting into buys here to ride price up with this higher time frame. That's what we've done. Higher time frame bullish. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Higher low, higher high. How do we know this higher low is put in? Because this 1 minute time frame just shifted bullish. Okay, so now where do I look to enter? It's the exact same thing, any time frame. So now we have high, low. So what are we going to create? We're going to create a zone on the lower time frame. Right? On the lower time frame now we have low, high, low. Okay, higher, high. Have we come back and mitigated this zone? Like I said, I like to come back and mitigate at least 50% of this zone. No, we haven't. Okay, this red line here is this 50%. We haven't come back and mitigated this zone yet. So I'm waiting for price to mitigate this zone and then continue up. As you can see, we start to push higher. I'll play it out a bit faster. Right? It's like magic. We tap into this unmitigated zone, and we do what? We put in this higher high. Okay, now all we've done on a lower time frame is the same thing. Low, high, higher low, higher high. Now, where would people have got cooked? People would have got cooked here because you're taking this bullish zone, okay, not knowing what? Knowing we have this unmitigated zone below. And then you're doing what? Then you're thinking, oh, let me take this bullish zone. Not knowing what? Knowing we have this unmitigated zone below. Whereas if you just waited for price to do what? To price to come back to this original zone, this unmitigated zone. Okay, it came, it filled it in. Everyone here has been stopped out with this fake flip, been stopped out with this fake flip, these fake changes of characters, but we're just returning it to here. Boom, higher high. It'll be easier to see on a higher time frame. Can you see, right? Low, high, high, higher, low, higher, high. We're expecting on the higher time frame. This is where we got the 1 minute change of character. So this was our 1 minute zone. We retrace back into that 1 minute zone and we move higher. So it's literally the exact same thing. On the higher time frame, we're playing a retracement into this zone. On the lower time frame, we're doing the same thing. This is the lower time frame now. We're pulling back. Right? We're playing a retracement into where? Into this zone. Okay. And then a retracement where? Into this zone. Back up to where? Back up to this higher time frame high here. It might sound complicated, but like literally this is the epitome of structure. Like it's so clean. And as you can see, where do we bounce? We come and do what? We come mitigate this zone. Yup. And then we bounce higher. It's not random that price is bouncing from here. It's not random that price is bouncing from here. Okay, it's all fractal. But people are getting stopped out here, stopped out. You're getting smoked, smoked, smoked. Not knowing where the trend is, not knowing where your zones are. Does that all make sense? And we'll do one more example. Again, from the same day on Friday. You can see on a higher time frame, we're putting a high, a low, a higher high. Then what did we do? We closed below this low here. So what have we done structure-wise? We flipped from bullish to bearish. So where's our zone on the higher time frame? Our zone is here. Okay, our zone is between this low to this high. So as we start to, what are we expecting on a higher time frame? We're expecting price to pull into here and retrace because all we're doing is following structure. This retracement here on the higher time frame, what is it going to look like on a lower time frame? It's going to look like this, right? It's going to look like an uptrend. But what don't you realize? You're not realizing we're just tapping into this higher time frame zone and likely to do what? And likely start to dump. Okay, so as we tap into this zone here, let's see what it's going to look like on the lower time frame. On the lower time frame, you're thinking an uptrend, right? You're thinking buy, 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 not knowing we're just tapping into this zone here, this zone that hasn't been mitigated before. So when I was marking my six, right, I had my six as this one, oh, sorry, one, two, because we had this unmitigated zone, three, four, five. Okay, if you know the strategy, liquidity sweep, look for an entry. So this is why I took these lows, shorts on Friday. Everyone was longing, okay, expecting what? Expecting price to big uptrend. No, but there's a downtrend. The 1 minute is just pulling back into this higher time frame zone. We've just touched this 50% area. This zone is getting mitigated. And what can we expect? We can expect price to come down and take these lows here. So all it did was literally follow structure. And on the 1 minute, you can see we went from bullish and then shifted back to bearish. Okay, and then what did we do? Right, we had this bearish zone on the way down. We pulled back, we mitigated this zone, we moved lower. It's the same thing over and over again. Use two time frames, align them, wait for them both to align. When they're not aligned, it means you're in a pullback. When they align, it means you're in the expansion phase. That's when you take a trade, you follow structure, and boom, you look for your entry. I know it sounds hard, but the more you see it, the more you practice, the more you backtest, the easier it will become. So, does that make sense? Or any questions? Yeah, these two were both during London session on Friday. So it was good for the London session stream. I'll end the recording here, just so